Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about the pattern change. So this pattern change will be directly correlated with a very strong storm system. If you've been on my channel, you saw my videos, I've been talking quite a bit about this large fall storm. And this fall storm is still forecast to happen, except today, or at least on today's this video. I'll probably have two videos up today. In this first video, I want to talk about the temperatures. We could be looking at very chilly temperatures for early fall, and the reason I'm talking about them is, they most likely won't be dangerous. They could be dangerous for your garden, though. If you have, many people on here also like gardening, and I just wanted to give you guys a brief rundown on what's to happen. Fortunately, it won't be across the whole United States. There will be the West, which will be per usual extremely hot, like we've been seeing this past couple of weeks. So if you're new to the channel, hello and welcome. I do everything about the weather. I'm a hobbyist, not a meteorologist, but people don't seem to mind as I prove myself through my forecast, not necessarily my credibility with a degree. But obviously for official forecast, go to the National Weather Service or the National Hurricane Center and NOAA. Do not consult my channel for official videos on forecast. This is just a brief rundown of the weather, if you will. So if you would like to subscribe, consider doing so. You could always unsubscribe, and if you would like to support the channel, consider doing so by liking the video. Let's start talking about this. So first off, I want to look at the GFS. And let's go to 2-meter temperature anomalies. Let's just start off by the temperatures right away. If you are wondering about the precip side of the storm, wait till about 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe 6 in the afternoon. On Thursday, that's when I'll be uploading my video. So, I will be talking about that separately. I may have a brief little rundown in this video as well, though. But notice what we see up until this upcoming weekend, or when that storm could form, really early into next week. We see a pretty warm air mass across the United States. We see a lot of temperatures that are going to be above average, especially for early fall. Some locations seeing the 90s, and notice this kind of warm air mass moves slowly to the west and east. But some instances, it's really dominating most of the country. You could see early morning hours of Saturday, just warmth. So just to go over timing a bit slower, here we have morning Thursday, here's the afternoon. You can see a bit cooler where the remnants and cloud cover are of the tropical storm beta. We do have a bit of also below average temperatures across the northwest. That's because there's a big storm coming in onshore, and that's infiltrating a lot of cooler air. Not really cold, just closer to normal, but you can see the heat is definitely on the prowl. And as we push this into Friday afternoon, cool across the southeast and northwest, similar areas, anywhere else it's warm. This is this is going to change pretty drastically in the next 72 hours from this image. So if we were to begin putting this into motion, we can notice that we see obviously above average temperatures and lots of precipitation from the Gulf of Mexico. The tropics have been absolutely open, open for business, if you will, unlike the country. And we will see that that environment is very favorable for large storm systems to form. And we do definitely see some little storms pass through, if you will. You can't really see them based off the temperatures, but notice the temperatures do get moderated. The heat kind of staves off into portions of the northeast, the east, and into the west. A bit cooler. This is really not going to be much, right? This is not the Arctic blast by any means. And if you were to look at the west, notice how warm it gets. Look at that swirl right there. That's indicative of a storm forming, and this is where things blow up. So this storm not necessarily causes a large air mass to come through. It really just brings in a lot of the air from the north, and I guess that's equivalent of it. But sometimes during the winter, what we see is already below average temperatures from the north moving into the south, where the temperatures usually average higher. So then we get very cold air. This storm just basically is so strong it drags relatively normal temperatures from the Canadian areas into the central United States, which this is a temperature anomaly. So this will obviously put these areas in the blue. Iowa typically doesn't see what Hudson Bay does in September, and we may this upcoming, next week after that storm system. Notice we start getting some pretty stark anomalies, and again, it seems like if they came out of nowhere, you could see they just blew up across the country. As I mentioned, you could see the west, the northwest, southwestern Canada, very, very warm, and this will be dangerous, in terms of maybe not the heat, but for the environmental conditions in agriculture. We could be seeing an increase in wildfire threats and worsening for the areas with drought. Notice as we push this forward, this just stays for a good portion of next week, and anomalies continue to be pretty significant, 15 to 20 degrees below Fahrenheit, and we kind of see these things going hand in hand. The heat fires up, so does the chill right here. Now, afterwards, it seems very iffy. Some models are showing a break in the pattern, going through more of a west to east flow. So where we see storm systems kind of break through this. The GFS with the latest model run is showing this cold air kind of stick around, and the warm air also stick around across the west, but mainly kind of go towards a warmer pattern, if you will. Look at that right there. That's an insane anomaly. And I just want to look at that out of curiosity to see what that shows. Yeah, hundreds in northern Nebraska and South Dakota in October. Not usual. Let's take a look now at the 2-meter temperature shaded, but with the Arctic blast. And you may be jarred by the title, reading Arctic blast. I mean, it literally will be. It's air from the Arctic that will be coming down into the United States, sponsored by that large storm system that will be occurring into early next week. So up until then, like I mentioned, very warm temperatures, and you can see 70s, 80s. That's relatively warm for this time of the year. I just can't wrap my head around that we're already in late September. It just seems like we just, like it was just July, quarantine just started, all that fun stuff. Obviously not, but time flies, I guess. And notice 80s, 70s, so this is very hot compared to this time of the year. If this was July, this would be around average. I still feel like it's summer though, and I guess it's just time. The weather's telling us it's time to transition. Notice we pushed the cooler air further into the United States into early next week. We start seeing 60s and 50s instead of 80s and 70s, and then we start seeing some very cold temperatures. Obviously, for this time of the year, 50s, upper 40s during the nights. Frosts, there'll probably be frost advisories all over these locations, and anywhere you see that blue color, that's freeze. That's a hard freeze where it's basically the end of the growing season for most crops, excluding maybe things like carrots, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, those hard, cold hardy plants that essentially they've been adapted through many years of evolution to put antifreeze into their leaves, and they could, beets, for example, could tolerate temperatures into the 20s. So cool. But tomatoes, pumpkins, squashes, it's all going to be gone, and it seems more and more likely this cold air is going to occur. I mean, in the portions of the southern United States are going to be seeing 50s and 40s, close to the Gulf Coast. So very, very chilly potential. And notice this is the daytime temperatures, 40s, 50s, 30s. Very, very cold to say the least. The West, again, very warm, 80s, 70s. While this won't be dangerous heat, it seems, 80s aren't really dangerous heat. They're going to be unpleasantly warm. In the Southwest, that could definitely turn dangerous. As we push this forward, I mean, you could see that could end the season, growing season for many people in Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. And to be honest with you, I love winter, I love fall, and I love seeing cool temperatures. But really, I don't like this forecast. I really hope that I live in a city, right outside the suburbs of Chicago, and I really hope that the heat urban island effect will save my crops, because as long as it's like 37, 38, things will still survive. But it gets 31, 32, things are toast. Hopefully the models kind of regulate off of that, because I mean, look at that. Afterwards we get still days that are perfectly growable, while it still maintains its chill across the northern United States. We see 50s and 60s where we could see more tomatoes ripen. So this is really kind of a shame to see if this were to occur that early. Last year was similar, unfortunately. Hopefully this year we could milk out a few days, because that's really what kind of is required. I have carrots growing, right, and I really want those carrots to mature, but if I get this frost, it may not happen. So I'm kind of painfully watching this, trying to give you guys this forecast, hoping it won't. Unfortunately, it's looking more and more likely to occur. Now let's take a look at the European model, 2-meter temperature anomalies. Okay, so notice we see, again, similar trend, lots of warm air, heat, no big threat of frost at all. I mean, 70s and 80s. A stark contrast to what we may be seeing next week. Notice it starts off gentle. We start getting some more significant tastes towards the north and west, and then it kind of blossoms, and you can see that the European is also pretty aggressive. Hopefully not as aggressive as the GFS, because the European usually is a better model, and I would like to, 15 more days of the growing season. And, the frost could come on average October 15th, like it usually does, and that would be awesome. But if it does come early October, that would be just so bad. I wouldn't be able to. That would be tough to bite, especially since we had a very late frost. So this year, as I mentioned, I think many times, the garden has been just suffering so much. We went from record rains, right? We went from record rain in spring. Also, we got a lot of our crops frostbitten, and then we got treated by the warmest summer ever Chicago had, and one of the driest. And now we're being treated by very cold fall and frost. So we'll see. That's life, as as Frank Sinatra would say. Notice that we see 70s and 80s while the heat is there, but we definitely start seeing those cooler temperatures, and really by next week we could be looking at signs of fall and winter, especially across the mountains. The European thankfully keeps things more moderated, doesn't show widespread 30s. Hopefully that's the case. I really don't want widespread 30s. Upper 40s, lower 40s, tolerable, but just keep off for a few more days. All right, so notice that we do see that significant cool off, and the European is on board with the GFS. I want to take a look at the ensembles. Actually, let's take a look at the European anomalies, but based on the kind of the tropical tidbits format. And I mean, you could see these temperatures are pretty chilly. The anomalies again are pretty contrasting with the heat in the west. This was a previous model run. You could see it was a bit more aggressive, so it's been relatively consistent. This was a model run prior to that, and you could see the warmth it was showing, and then the cool air as well. So the consistency is really kind of the indicator that this will most likely occur. Let's take a look at the ensembles. These are a bunch of models from that, like in this case, the European model family. And notice general consensus of a large cool down. Heat in the west, really, sweltering heat, but cool in the eastern United States, and this moves as far into the south, portions of the Gulf Coast, Caribbean, and even into Maine and New Hampshire in the northeast. Let's take a look at the GEFS. So the GFS family of models, also a very interesting group, and notice that we see cool air start off, slow and gentle, quickly transitions into some very chilly air, and the GEFS ensembles are showing a more regulated cool off. I mean, you can see they are showing a lot of 30s, but really the GFS is just kind of going berserk with that. I am really trying to hold my, fingers crossed, hoping this won't happen such cold air. But nevertheless, that's the forecast. I can't lie to you guys, and I never would. I try giving you the best of the information, and this could be the end of a growing season for many folks. I've been talking about the growing season and gardening so much in today's video because of the fact that usually when you do see frosts and cool-offs in the fall, people want to know the most whether or not this will end my growing season. It's nice to know whether it will be cool or warm, but especially when you have crops on in your bargain. 6 to 10 day outlook from the 29th through the 3rd, so kind of when that cool air is definitely at its peak, it seems. Look at that. Hot, cold, just really contrasting. Depends on where you live. Really, I think this will be more of a big deal, kind of affecting. It's tough to say at this point because I would feel, foolish saying that, and then next week we see a historic wildfire across the west. So this really, these anomalies, either one isn't good. And folks underneath the worst of it definitely won't be the happiest. Precip, you could see the above average kind of continues to move away as the storm system at this point is already kind of over with, and we see lots of dry weather placed in, and that's typical with the cool air. But also notice it's kind of overlapping with that warm air, so that could lead to a more intensifying drought. I wanted to look at the 8 to 14 day outlook. I don't know why that went to that image. 1st through 7th of October, first week, they're showing a lot of cool temperatures, and we've had a relatively cooler fall this year so far. September's been all over the place, warmer in the west, cooler in the Midwest. October may be different. You know, we may be just looking at a warm beginning or cool beginning like we saw last year and a warm ending or warm rest of the month. I think that may be the case. Notice though, anomalies, contrasts continue, and so does a below average precipitation. And that's basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.